Hey, what's going on guys? It's FPL Yusuf here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be going over my final team selection ahead of game week 9. I'm going to show you guys my confirmed team that I'm going to be going into the deadline with tonight. One transfer that I've already made and possibly a -4 coming in later this evening. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, welcome back guys. Thank you so much for being here today for another video on my YouTube channel. Before we get into this one, if you wouldn't mind dropping a thumbs up and subscribing down below, it would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so I'm going to get into my transfers that I have actually made, and I have already confirmed one ahead of the game week deadline, which is tonight. So at the time of me recording, it's currently Friday morning. I will try and get this video out later on this afternoon ahead of tonight's deadline, which is on Friday. So the first transfer that I have actually confirmed and made is I have got rid of Luis Diaz. I spoke about it in my transfer target video, and I said that 100% he will be leaving my team this week. It was the uncertainty of minutes. It was the lack of returns even when he does play. I watched Liverpool's game in the Champions League on Wednesday evening, and again he didn't start. Now I thought that maybe potentially they would go with Gakpo through the middle and Diaz on the left, but they didn't. Gakpo continued to play on the left hand side, and Darwin Núñez did play through the middle and also did score. So it kind of makes me think that's probably going to be their front three going into the Arsenal game. Potentially Luis Diaz could come in, but I don't know. It seems to me that Arne Slot seems to really like Cody Gakpo on the left hand side, and right now it's looking like Darwin Núñez is getting the nod at striker whilst Jota is injured. So for me, Diaz had to go. I have brought in Cole Palmer. For me, it's not a bad fixture this week in it by any means. You know, Newcastle at home. If it was Newcastle St James's Park, I think it would be a different story. But because they're going to Stamford Bridge, you know, Newcastle on the road aren't exactly amazing, and I do think that there is potential for Palmer and Chelsea to have a few goals in this game. So that's my confirmed transfer, which I did make that. I believe it was Wednesday evening before the price rises, because Cole Palmer did actually go up. So I brought him in a little early. Now the second transfer that I'm thinking of making, and this would obviously be for a -4, is Bukayo Saka. I just have to hold my hands up and say this one was just a mistake by bringing him in last week. I should have waited. You know, obviously I got rid of Mo Salah to bring him in. Again, it was a 12-point swing last week. I don't know if Saka's going to be fit to play this weekend. If he is, it's still not a great fixture against Liverpool. There is an argument to be made that, you know, you could bench him and, you know, give yourself another week to assess and see what happens. But I do argue the case that, you know, the upside for bringing like a Son in, is it worth a -4? Possibly. You know, Spurs are playing Crystal Palace. Son didn't start in their Europa League game, so I think all eyes are on the press conferences today for the managers who aren't playing until tomorrow. But yeah, it's something that I'm definitely thinking about. This transfer, if I do make it, will obviously be later towards the end of the deadline this evening. So it'll probably be, you know, in a few hours' time. I just want to wait and see what the press conferences are saying, see what Arteta says about Saka, see what Postecoglou says about Son, and then yeah, we'll go from that. But as of right now, only one free transfer made, which was Diaz to Palmer, with a potential with a -4 coming in for Saka, moving to Son, depending on the news we get. Okay, so here is my final team selection. As you can see, I've got a few flags in this team, which we're going to cover as we go through it. But we're going to start off with a big decision which I had to make this weekend, which was do I go for double Arsenal defence or do we just go for one? Now, obviously, David Raya is my only playing goalkeeper, so he's going to start no matter what. So he's in goal. Don't really need to go too much in depth into him. I have gone for a 3-4-3 at the time of recording. Mazraoui, now let me talk a little bit about him. So he actually started in a number 10 role in their game against Fenerbahce last night, which I can't lie, never did I think that would happen. Now that I've seen that it's a possibility, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's going to be something that we see consistently. However, for FPL reasons, if he does manage to start in a number 10 role again against West Ham, you know, their defense has been leaky. I'm not complaining. You know, I've got him in there. I'm going to start him anyway because I do think Man United have got quite a high chance of keeping a clean sheet in this game, especially with Kudus missing for West Ham. But the thing was around the double Arsenal defence, do we go for Gabriel and Raya or do I just go for David Raya? At the time, as I said, at the time we recorded, I've actually got Gabriel third on my bench. I don't know whether or not he's going to stay there. Mazraoui for me is going to be a lock. Rico Lewis, it's a hard one with him because he hasn't been returning. City haven't been keeping clean sheets. However, it's Southampton at home. You know, the attacking threat's there. You'd imagine that Man City will walk away with a clean sheet finally from this game. So he's a non-negotiable for me. He will most definitely be in there. And at the time of recording, I do have Pau Torres in there. Now, this is probably my most flexible position. He's got Bournemouth at home. Bournemouth are a tricky one because they are a decent outfit, but Aston Villa have been defending well recently. So this is where my big sort of conundrum comes in. Obviously, I've got Michael Keane on the bench, who has Fulham at home. I think if I had to pick between Keane or Gabriel as coming in, I'd probably just back Gabriel. You know, he's the better player, playing for the better team in the better defence. So even though Michael Keane did give me heroics last week, I will, if I do make a transfer out, it will be for Gabriel to come in. So onto the midfield now. As you can see, I've got the 4 in there. And Burmo definitely playing, you know, Ipswich at home. Great fixture. It's looking like Johan Viss is going to be back as well, which is something that I'm going to talk about in my transfer targets video at the end of this weekend, which I'm going to try and get out early because I've got a lot to sort of discuss as we come into fixture swings now. So I think Mbeumo just makes him that much more of a better asset. Obviously, he's on penalties, probably going to play 90 minutes as well. So he's staying. Cole Palmer, the new transfer in, again, same thing. Chelsea's talisman. Kind of everything goes from him. He's on all set pieces. The upside for him is just so good. And I think, do you know what? I do, even though I'm not going to do it personally, I do think that there is an outside shout as him being captaincy this week. Obviously, you know, Haaland's got Southampton at home. He's coming off the back of a brace, and we're going to talk about him in a second. But for me, I do think that Cole Palmer has definitely got a good chance of returning in this fixture. So yeah, for me, he's going to be the second midfielder in here. Bukayo Saka, now, at the time of recording, he's obviously flagged, and he's got a 25% flag on him. He didn't play in Arsenal's Champions League game against Shakhtar in midweek, which I don't think it necessarily surprised me, because I think even if he was fit, I don't think Arteta would have risked him for that game. I think Arsenal had enough firepower to manage to get through that without needing Bukayo Saka. Obviously, this was the big game for them coming up. You know, Liverpool, is it a 6-point battle? Maybe, potentially, especially because Arsenal lost last weekend to Bournemouth. But I think if there's one game that Arsenal would want to get Saka out on the pitch for, it is this one. I'm going to wait and see what happens later on. I'm going to wait and see if we get maybe any early team news potentially. I know it's a bit difficult because the game week deadline is obviously tonight on Friday, but I'm going to wait and just see if we hear anything about Bukayo Saka, about his fitness. And if not, then like I said in the previous section, I will be making that change to Son from -4. So for the time being, I'm going to keep him in there. I have got Semenyo off the bench as well if I need him. If I had to play him, it's not the end of the world. He's always got a chance of getting a return. You know, Aston Villa, they've looked good defensively, but obviously they do a little bit like Man City have a tendency to concede. So if worse comes to worse, and I just do decide to roll and keep Saka on the bench, I won't mind playing Semenyo in that midfield either. So he's fine. And of course, Brennan Johnson, Crystal Palace away, great fixture on paper for me, which is kind of why I do want to get Son in to double up with him, because it's looking like Solanke's the one dropping deep and them two are going onwards. But yeah, for me, I'm happy with the midfield. Like I said, the biggest thing in this will be whether Saka plays or not. But worst comes to worst, if I do have to just bite the bullet and bench him, Semenyo comes in, so it's not really too much of a problem. Finally, onto the forward line. So we might as well start off with the biggest hot topic in the community this week, and that is Erling Haaland. Coming off the back of a brace, he did get a brace in the Champions League. Granted, it was against, I think it was Victoria Pilsen. It was a team that Man City should be beating and should be beating comfortably. But it's good to know that he is coming off the back of like finally getting some goals, you know, especially after the Wolves game where he didn't have any shots at all. He's back into scoring form now. Would I triple captain him this week? I think that is a question that has been going around. Me personally, I wouldn't. I always like to save my triple captains for a double game week. And I do think that there will be other opportunities later down the line. However, that being said, this is probably one of the prime fixtures that you do want to target. It's Southampton at home to Man City at the Etihad. So this genuinely could be a sort of 4-5-0 game. Haaland could easily walk away with a brace, a hat-trick, 4-5, who knows? You know, we saw him do it against Luton last year in the Cup where he just bagged 5 in the first hour. So it's not out of the realms of possibility. I just think for me personally, I'd rather save it for, you know, I'd say later down the line, because Man City haven't looked that great in the Premier League over the last few games. They haven't really looked that creative. So yeah, I think on this one, I'll just wait and just leave him just as a normal captain. Danny Welbeck has obviously got a flag on him. Now, Herzler said that he was back in training, which is good news. In an ideal world, I want Danny Welbeck to play because, you know, Wolves haven't been defending that great. I think this could be a game where it's like a 2-2, a 3-3. I think I could see a lot of goals going in this game, which is why, you know, Cunha and Strand Larsen are quite hot topics at the moment. But for me, I'm going to start him. Like I said, I've got a lot of options off the bench this week. So even if Danny Welbeck doesn't play, it's not the end of the world. You know, I've got a fairly strong bench this time round, so I'm not too fussed with that. And the final striker is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the man who continues to frustrate me. Again, has got a great fixture, has clocked up some ridiculous XG over the last few weeks, but has yet to get an attacking return in the last 4. Little bit frustrating. If he blanks again this week, I think that there is serious consideration just to move him on. I've had enough. Like, my patience is very, very thin, but I do want to keep the faith and just hold out for a little bit longer. He isn't a priority transfer out. For me, it's if you've got a luxury transfer where you've got a spare transfer or one that you're looking to burn, then okay, fair enough. Maybe you could look at moving him out. But for me, I've got a lot more pressing issues which I need to take care of. So happy to have Calvert-Lewin. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this will be the game that he actually manages to get a return in and can bring us some points after a long-awaited, you know, run of 4 games without scoring. So fingers crossed for him this week. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Like I said, this week is all about, you know, trying to get the transfers right. I think there's a lot of talk around Bukayo Saka. He's going to be the big one. It's just to wait and see what happens. If I get any news, I will drop it on my Twitter. So feel free to follow me. I'll leave a link of it down below in the description. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, like I said, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And I'll catch you guys next time.